Hello everyone and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on the December 2016. I'm Nick, here alongside Chris. How's it going, man?
Hey Nick, I have no banter for today because we have a guest.
No
I don't want to delay them from speaking their mind. They have strong opinions, and sometimes they don't know what a steamroller is off the top of their head. But it doesn't discount the fact that they know what a great scene it is and want to talk about it. And apparently everyone else in the room forgot what a steamroller was as well.
It felt like that lasted like 10 minutes of just trying to think of that word.
It seemed like a really long time, and I was like, how does no one... It's the only scene that they do that sort of thing where they're punching each other through an object, and everyone's talking to you like you're crazy. They're like, a road paver? What are you talking about? Stop making up things, Jeff.
I mean, honestly, if someone dreamt all of JoJo's, that would make more sense than it actually existing, so...
I mean, it had to be dreamt in some capacity.
Yeah.
Sure. Whether it was a waking dream or not. I guess that, Chris makes a point. We are serious whenever we break someone into the podcast, so that by the time that they sink all the way down to our level of insanity, it's too late. They haven't seen the warning signs from early on, and so we tracked them. Our guest this week is Jeff Ruberg, known as Definitely Jeff. Very clever.
Thank you.
I know I've known two Jeffs that I associate very heavily with. Both of them have amazing online handles. I have to say, it makes me jealous that I didn't think of something so cool when I was fucking 14.
Well, no, this was actually pretty intentional. At some point in my... Because I had screen names for a while that were really crappy and really stupid.
Everyone
and
does.
Then... I think when I hit like 21 or so, I was like, I need something that's more professional. I was sending email addresses. I was sending emails to my professors under the name Shadow Dragon, and I was like, no, this is not good. And so I was like, I brainstormed a list of like 50 different puns that had Jeff in the title, Jeff in the name. So like, you could just like search through a dictionary and filter out the things that have F, and then there are a lot of puns there. So
Jeff fucking Jeff.
I feel like...
I didn't go for that one.
I feel like whenever you go through your midlife crisis, you jump back to your Shadow Dragon email, and you're just like, yeah, like, just where I belong.
Well, the sad part is I wasn't even early enough on Gmail to get Shadow Dragon, so I didn't have the N, it was Shadow Drago. You know, 'cause so cool, guys.
Yeah, well,
that's even more emo.
Yeah, Drago still sounds pretty cool, though. So it worked out for you, I think, in the end. It'd be bad if you couldn't get, like, if you went, like, Shadow, but without the W dragon, then it'd be like, oh, that's just nonsense now. You're just gibberish.
You keep on trying these different words for dragon, and none of them are working out. Shadow Drake, Shadow Hatchling, Shadow Worm, and eventually you're just like Shadow Ryu. And it's like, god damn it, everyone knows how big of a fucking otaku I am. For those people who are listening, Jeff, who have no idea maybe who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure, yeah, sorry for jumping without explaining that.
No,
yeah,
that's the way. That's the weekly manga recap way.
Yeah.
We never give context to the we always put the cart ahead of the horse.
Well, it's hard to live up to the last guest, the ghost camel, I think.
Yeah, she graces us with her presence every so often, but now she's off gallivanting through Japan, so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jealous. I'm jealous even though I was in Japan like 2 weeks ago, so...
I'm insanely jealous. I've contemplated taking her out and wearing her skin and jumping on that trip instead, but every time I'm just like, it feels like it'd be such a hassle and waste of time.
Chris, come on. This is first time here.
Oh, right. I'm supposed to slowly initiate people into the rampant insanity of this podcast. My bad.
Oh, yeah, so introduce myself. Okay, so I work at Viz Media. I'm a mobile developer, so I work on the Viz Media mobile apps. That includes the Viz Manga apps for like iPad, iPhone, Android, and the Weekly Shonen Jump apps for those platforms, and the Naruto apps as well, if people actually remember those exist, which not many people do. But
well, it's a free chapter of Naruto every day, right?
Yep, a new chapter, and it's slowly rotating through the whole series. We launched a little over a year ago, so I think it should be about halfway through the series now. and it's still chugging along.
And you
yeah.
are the person who helps bring this to life, which is I'm holding up my iPhone right now where I have the Jump app loaded. I have it put up right now to the first page of the Demons Plan chapter because I know you were a big fan of that.
Oh yeah.
I will give you all due props because I do love the mobile version of this. But
Well, thank you.
yeah, what is it that you do as a what's the exact title again? Because I feel like I'm going to call it something different every time.
Well, I guess technically my title is lead mobile developer.
Lead mobile developer.
Although technically that's lead of one. So I saw that once when I had to be introduced to some people in Japan when we were working on the Naruto app, and I was like, oh, lead mobile developer, that's news to me. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so the mobile, I mean, I started working at Viz about 1.5 years ago, and as people know, these apps have been around for a lot longer than that, especially like the Shonen Jump Alpha initiative and stuff like that. So I mostly inherited them, and I've been maintaining them, fixing things, adding features, adding little improvements, adding little UI things. My goal is like slowly over time make them look prettier, nicer, work better, prevent crashes and that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's basically it.
How'd you get into that kind of line of work? Was this like the dream job that you, as like a 12-year-old kid, as young Shadow Dragon was saying up his email, like, one day I'm gonna make the app you can read manga on your phone with?
Well, it's weird that you say that because I was just thinking about the job I had before Viz. I was working at Apple, and I was there for a while, like 2.5 years. I mean, that's a while in the tech industry, but not outside the tech industry. But I was kind of like, that was kind of my dream job. Like out of college, I was like, I'm working for Apple. Oh my God, this is so amazing. And it took me a while to realize I didn't actually like it. And because I was like, this is my dream job. It's amazing. I'm going to like everything about it.
There was a stubbornness about it. Like, of course I like it. What like, yeah.
And I basically like, because I was like creatively unfulfilled at work, I started a podcast. And then that kind of spiraled out of control because then I was busy, both like a full-time job running a podcast and full-time job. And anyway, so I kind of like eventually realized like I was like, okay, I don't actually love it that much. And I wasn't working on mobile development at the time. I was working on like server-side stuff. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to move into mobile development, but it was hard to, because I was also working on the podcast, I couldn't really hone those skills. So I took time off work. Well, I mean, I left Apple and then had a couple months. And then I kind of like applied to Viz on a whim. I was like, let's see. I guess I'll apply to that. Like I've heard of Viz for a while.
I like the Animu. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I've read, I read a little bit of Naruto and Bleach back in the day when they started the manga and stuff. And I was like, let's see. And I kind of took the job because I was like, maybe I'll like this. We'll see. And then I kind of slowly grown into, this is actually amazing. And they just happened to have the need for someone to kind of maintain the apps and stuff. And I was like, this is what I've been wanting to do. And I've wanted to work on a product that I've enjoyed using, that people enjoy using, that, I was working on Apple Maps when I was at Apple. So not really a loved product.
Are you sure? Because all the time when I'm like getting turned around on the highway randomly, I'm like, God, this is such a great product. Thank God I have this in my life.
Yeah. Oh boy. So many Apple Maps jokes I had to endure for time I was there.
Then whenever like you told people what you did and they just started throwing bricks at you or like their food, they're just like, you work on Apple Maps, boo, hiss.
No, the worst was like I'd be like, I work on Apple Maps, and they'd be like, oh, I don't hate that. Like I actually use that.
That's
I'm like,
their compliment.
Great. Thank you.
I actually do use that, unlike everyone else uses every other better map program.
Yeah. So no, but I mean, working on like the user-facing features is really great, and working on things that. I mean, I use the apps a ton myself just to read lots of stuff. And I mean, basically, I'd read only a couple series before I started working at Viz. I was more of an anime fan, been an anime fan a while, but not really manga. Mm-hmm. And in the past 1.5 years, I've been basically reading as much manga as I can, starting with trying to catch up to as many series in Shonen Jump as possible. But that kind of took a year-long hiatus to read One Piece. So, but finally caught up on One Piece.
How was the adventure?
49 chapters. The One Piece adventure?
Yeah, how was the adventure of catching up on One Piece?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it's for people who don't have access to a library of all of the volumes and stuff is really hard and expensive to get into. But outside of that, I mean, it's great. I really didn't know what to expect of One Piece. I was like, oh, it's this thing. I know a lot of people like it, but like it's really childish and silly and weird. And but then when I went to Japan about a little over a year ago, and I was like, One Piece is everywhere here. I need to read this. And yeah, and it's great. I mean, I didn't realize it would be so great at the like epic series long storytelling, the different levels of arcs. That there's the local island specific arc, and then there's the the characters that are recurring between arcs, and then there's the characters recurring across the whole series, that kind of stuff. It's really great multi-level storytelling, and it's kind of the only example I can think of a really well told epic long story told
saga.
over 20 years.
Yeah. Did you start from you started on chapter 1 and went from there? Or did you have any kind of experience with the series before that, or how'd you go through it?
I think aside from catching the an episode or two when the Fox Kids version premiered, I don't think I really had any contact. Yeah, I started from chapter 1 and then went all the way from there.
When was it that you then, sorry to interrupt you, but when did you then get hooked into the series, or at least you were the first moment you were like, oh, I see, I completely get it now why people like this.
Oh yeah, it was the Arlong arc, definitely.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay. Each of these, because at that point you get a little bit of Zolo's backstory, a little bit of Sanji's backstory, but then I was like, okay, these are okay. And then it was really Nami's backstory. I was like, okay, I can see why this is a thing. And
did you cry? Yeah.
well, I mean, it was on public transportation at the time, so didn't quite cry in the middle of the train, but
a single tear slid down your cheek and said, "What are you crying about, Sonny?" "Oh, just think about how my sister got cancer." Yeah.
I'm not crying because a boat is having a funeral. Neil Day's like, One Piece, eh? I know what that's like. And she just starts sobbing uncontrollably as well. You're like, oh, okay, I guess everybody's just in on this.
So yeah, sorry, I guess I kind of got totally off track. To finish introduce myself, yeah, I've been a recurring guest on the Shonen Jump podcast a couple times. And also people might possibly recognize my name if they're into Digimon. I co-host a Digimon podcast called Podigus, where we slowly going through the Digimon series, Digimon anime, and covering it in arcs at a time. And yeah, that's a thing.
And that was the podcast that when you left Apple, you started up?
No, I mean, yeah, it is, but I had started it while I was at Apple, and I was like, this will keep me creatively fulfilled. And then it just made me realize I didn't like what I was doing at work. So
yeah.
But no, yeah. So I've been doing the podcast we've been doing for about 2.5 years now, I think. We just wrapped up. We just wrapped up Digimon Tamers, and we're gonna start Frontier soon. There's still 2 more episodes unreleased of Tamers that I have to release soon, coming out in the next couple of days, and then onto Frontier.
Yeah, you guys cover for pretty much almost every aspect of the franchise. You covered, of course, the Tri movies as they've been coming out.
Yeah, no, we started it before there was any the series basically kind of dead. I mean, there was, I think at the time, Digimon Fusion was airing on Nickelodeon, but we were like, we don't care about that. So for all intents and purposes, we were like, yeah, the series is dead. We'll just cover, we'll nostalgically look back and cover the only seasons that exist. Nothing more will come out. And
nothing else is gonna. And then of course, yeah, it's resurrected halfway through your run that you've been doing.
Yeah, and I mean, the Tri movies started airing while we were on Digimon Tamers, so that season has taken us twice as long as the others to get through because we
keep on getting sidetracked, of course.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's definitely great that I mean, the fact that you have. It's so weird to think of Digimon as a franchise that's that big now. Honestly, just because we're all around the same age, and so we remember when it started up. The way that it did, it was just like, what's this Pokemon knockoff? Even though it actually came before Pokemon, but shh.
I mean,
it's lasted long enough, and there have been enough series that you can now have a big dedicated podcast exclusively to it.
Yeah, although the number of fans is still pretty small compared to other things.
It's considerably more niche than. Digimon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're all here for the same purpose, right? We're all here to talk about some manga, talk
Murder?
about murder. That's not on the table, is it?
Oh yeah, manga. Yeah.
Oh yeah, manga. Yeah, that's the other thing that
Manja?
we do. Manja? Manga?
Mango.
I swear, my dad, since I started working at Viz, he used to call it manga. Now he calls it manja. I was like,
Like he's trying to get like one up on you.
yeah.
He's like, actually, son, it's pronounced manja. You're like, no, it's not. It's really not.
Well, I mean, as a kid, he used to make fun of me for. There was a phase in my life where like all I cared about was Pokemon, Digimon, and Yu-Gi-Oh. And now I'm like, okay, well now I work tangentially related to Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, and I have a
Right.
podcast on Digimon. So,
Mhm.
I guess nothing's changed. So, yep.
You're living the dream. If I could kill you and take your skin and wear it and just go to your work in your life, I would in a heartbeat.
What is it with you and wanting to wear people's skin, Chris?
I thought we initiated him at this point. I thought he'd be cool with it. He's already been.
That's such a leap to want to make, though. It's like, oh man, I'm jealous of you. Wish I could just crawl inside of you and live your life.
I'm just gonna silence the lambs you against your will.
Oh boy. Yeah, we're gonna talk about our usual manga, though. We're gonna do the recap portion, weekly manga recap, and I don't know, maybe the guy who also reads much manga can with us a little bit about it. Maybe he'll just sit in the corner and say nothing, though. We're actually going to do a little bit of an experiment. We've been doing random order the last few weeks because we have been doing it alphabetically, and then Road Trigger went on hiatus, so we got very sad. I actually have an arranged order stuff this time, and I think that maybe this way things will be a bit more spaced out in terms of where we have the stuff with our longer discussions, and we'll see how this works out in the next couple of weeks. But I wanted us to try and start off with... Actually, before we get into that, I just wanted to make a note of the Shonen Jump that we got this week. The thing that was done, I guess, in preparation for one... half a year away from it actually being the big anniversary. But it's it's an image. It's got Luffy on the side there, and the rest of the Shonen Jump protagonists dress up as various members of the Straw Hats, which I thought was really charming. If you see like the full version of it, that's in the Yuma or somebody from remote. Shower is sick. But I really like a bunch of them. I like Deku as Sanji. I think that Emma as Chopper looks fucking adorable. It was a cool little idea.
I didn't even notice that was the shtick at first. I saw the cover page. I was like, huh, Zoro looks weird this week. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Chopper's not a young girl.
His scar moved.
Hold on a moment. Brooke doesn't have skin.
And a
He
soccer
doesn't
ball.
play soccer.
That didn't bother me as much as the skin. I was like, yeah, it's Soccer Brooke. It's, obviously.
I mean, it's really cool to see the full version of it. Like, I forget the name of Kitetsu no Yaiba's protagonist, but he is there also as Zoro too. Freaking Isobe as Robin.
I don't know why. I guess I'm just this, dull when it comes to, thinking, but I was like, I wonder, there's not enough straw hats for everybody, so I wonder who got them. And I'm, staring at a page that has 2 Sanjis. It didn't prop into my mind that they could double up on characters. It's just, they could only ever pick one. It's so crazy, Can't believe that Ole Golazo got such a premium character like Brooke. No one else is going to be able to use him.
It was a little bit awkward because obviously there's only 9 straw hats to choose from. So when you've got 20 Shonen Jump protagonists, of course there are gonna be repeats. So it's fine when you've got a couple, 3 people playing Chopper and 3 as Zoro, and do that for every character. But then if you cut it down to just the ones that are in English Jump, and then two of the 4 that show up on the page are both playing Sanji, it's a little weird.
Yeah, I didn't even connect to that because he's because one of them's in fighting pose and one of them's in cooking pose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Zoro was I was like,
That's
is this...
dedication. That's dedication from Asta there. Dyed his hair for it.
I was like, is that actually Asta? Like, I mean, I was like, that's the one that, like,
It's really
kinda
hard to
barely
actually
looks like
tell him
Asta.
apart. He just
Yeah.
he just looks like Zoro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like the eye shape and the mouth shape, but like,
Yeah.
that's kind of just a style thing. So
Anyway, we're gonna kick things up with My Hero Academia, continuing the fight between Deku and Bakugo. Bakugo pissed off, sort of at himself for his own weakness, and Deku is receiving his feelings in one of the single most shonen sentiments that you could off. You can't communicate to me through words. Communicate with our fists and then understand each other the way that men do.
yeah, it reminds me that I've been reading through Bakuman just to, I think it's like really relevant to my job and stuff. I mean, one of my coworkers is a character in it. So
That was the one thing that was missing from that series was the digital worker.
Digital developer.
Yeah, no, I wish it were a thing. But in
What?
Like, I'm just getting in chapter, or no, in volume 13, they have a scene where they have to fight it out with fists. I'm like, this doesn't make sense for manga artists. I mean, but the shonen tropes everywhere.
Gotta love them though.
Oh yeah. Bakugo is continuing to keep Deku on his toes by throwing himself through the air and across the ground with various explosions, using his explosive techniques in all sorts of different ways. He does this cool thing where he jumps up into the air and then he propels himself downwards for a quick attack. And Deku really doesn't have time to actually counter because he's too busy reacting to all the stuff that Bakugo is doing. And eventually he manages to catch him because Deku jumps backwards in order to avoid an attack, and while he's still in the air and of course unable to react, Bakugo manages to dart behind him with a series of explosions and then swing at him from behind.
I just want to note, because it's almost going to be overshadowed by everything else in the chapter. I just want to note what an awesome attack Bakugo does, where after his initial attack misses, he starts spinning his hands and creating explosions and turns himself into a giant wheel of explosions and launches
Gotta go
himself at
boom.
Deku. That is one of the most awesome techniques. It didn't get like a 2-page spread or anything like that. It's just a regular looking move, but I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've seen in a while. That is awesome.
It's just like too much stuff going on to get a 2-page spread in there. I really love the pose where he lands behind Deku. The pose that he's got with his arms strung out behind him from when he launched the attack to land on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of trade blows because Deku can't avoid anything, so all I can do is swing wildly behind him, and he manages to brush Bakugo, and Bakugo lands a pretty hard attack to the ribs. And they're doing all sorts of stuff, vaulting through the air while avoiding stuff. It's honestly, it's a different sort of fight than I think that we're used to seeing, because this is the first time that we've seen Deku, since he started using the shoot style, go up against someone who's able to move in the same way that he does. Because really, up to this point, it was just when he had to fight against Disguised Toga and against Gang Orca, really. Deku, has a moment where they just kind of land after their exchange to recognize that Bakugo has really improved. Gets this grin on his face when he makes a comment about Bakugo getting stronger. Bakugo's like, "Fuck you!"
Stop grinning.
Bakugo uses his solar flare, stun grenade, but Deku manages to get his arm up in order to keep himself from being blinded, and Bakugo starts to rant again about the attitude that Deku always has about being almost perpetually optimistic and always constantly moving forward. And he starts to rant and says, "I'll pound you again and again, but you would keep sticking around even though you were a punk with nothing to offer, always looking at me with those eyes that seem to know something I didn't, like you were the one looking down on me, like you were just waiting for the chance to surpass me." It's a very childish rant that he goes on, this very accusatory tone that he takes with Deku, who has always seen Bakugo as his friend, despite the fact that he's been a real piece of shit to him this entire lives, pretty much. And I'm really hoping that Bakugo, now that he's got a chance to let all of this stuff out, that maybe finally start to not, move past it all at once, but just kind of start to change his tone a bit. It's something that I've been saying as we've been getting this fight, that I think this is, he's progressing and he's going to start developing from this. I don't expect him to do it all at once, but getting this heavy a dosage of it really makes me feel like, gosh, I really hope that this guy doesn't stay this way forever. It's really unhealthy.
Yeah, but like if he changed too much, then like he would
stop
lose the charm.
Stop being Bakugo, yeah.
I think I like this reasoning from him because it is very fitting for the character. It's always like I've always had a question in my mind. I was like, why does Bakugo hate him so much, considering the fact that he he idolizes strong heroes, and he does kind of explain it there. How he's always seen Deku get back up, and in his mind, it was almost like, something I don't, and you're just trying to take, you're trying to surpass me and take my spot from me. It kind of just shows how, like, fragile Bakugo honestly is kind of on the inside and unsure of himself, even in a way.
It's something that I don't really fully grasp his logic on, and I understand that part of it is that it's not going to make complete sense because he's an emotional teenager. But, yeah, his whole thing has been that he admires strong heroes, and he's always seen Deku as being weak. And so Deku getting stronger messes, I guess, with the way that he perceives the world. But the fact that Deku is getting stronger and catching up to him, you would think that if you just take him on the face value of Bakugo respects strong people, then Deku getting stronger would start to earn his respect. But it's almost as if Bakugo has just this way of just putting people at different levels and doesn't believe in them moving between them. Which, now that I think about it, the fact that All Might has lost his power and is thus moved in the opposite direction has probably fucked with him if he thinks of things that way as well.
Remember, he considers himself responsible for that happening, too.
Well, there's that, of course, but I think that this is the thing, is this isn't something that we've seen explicitly stated, but maybe if he actually categorizes people like that and has trouble believing that they can move between those categories, then Deku moving in one direction, of course, has infuriated him for some time. If All Might moves in the other direction, then that would clearly challenge that view. And again, this is not anything that has been explicitly stated. It's just something like an impression that I'm getting from all of this.
The impression I get is that it's less that he puts people into those boxes and more that he, like, found his sense of worth by being superior to people like Deku, people who are powerless, and the idea that, like, that it's not as simple as just a bully, but that his, like, bullying would not work and he'd just be impervious to it really always pissed him off. And yeah,
so his ability to bully Deku just kind of reminds himself that he's stronger than him, and the fact that he's stronger than him, that he could be as strong as All Might.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how, like, the further fallout of how he thinks of All Might now that we know that he feels guilty and feels responsible for it, but I'm curious to see, like, will he start to lose respect for him? Will he start to change how he views people without powers in general? I mean, do you think he has, like, a complex where he looks down on people without powers in general? I thought it was really just like
he clearly did look down on Deku when he didn't have any powers. So
I think I think he has it in the sense that he looks down on people who don't have powers, who don't have useful quirks. But I think the big thing about why his thing with Deku kind of continued the way it did is that Deku kept getting up and not acting like he was a hero, but kept getting up instead of just staying down, which I think Bakugo just kind of equates with people who are weak. So I think for him, who kind of sees things in like a strength is absolute kind of way, I think he doesn't I don't know if he looks down on them, but he just doesn't care about people who are weak or powerless. Like they're people to protect in a crisis or whatever, but ultimately what he cares about is being the strongest and being the hero that through that method.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Deku gets a chance to explain himself after Bakugo launches into this rant because it clearly strikes a chord with him because although we have kind of known this stuff about Bakugo for some time, it's, I guess, never really occurred to Deku. He's still caught on that, oh yeah, gotcha, friends. Poor Deku. Poor innocent, trusting Deku.
It was just a pile of Deku birthday party invitations just sitting on Bakugo's desk, clearly all still sealed. He's just like, what are these all doing here? Like, oh, I just sometimes now throw away all my garbage.
Sometimes things are so worthless that they're not even worth me exploding. But Deku says that normally I wouldn't want anything to do with the guy who kept on insulting me, but as you just said, I had nothing going for me. And as bad as your bad side was, your strengths were just as impressive. You had so much that I didn't, and I could admire All Might from a distance, but you were right there, this amazing person in my life. So, there, Deku lays it all out, is that, of course, All Might was his big idol, but in terms of, like, neighborhood heroes, Bakugo was, like, the closest first thing that he had to that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the big thing that I think that Bakugo really needs to take away from all of this. That from the time that he was a little kid, he was this guy's hero, and he's been treating him like a piece of shit his entire life. And I hope that he takes that to heart. Not like, again, I don't think that this should be some like sudden change where Bakugo's like, I will make amends with a perfect angel from now on. But, it can't always be start of Dragon Ball Z Vegeta. It may take you years of publication sacrifice himself to save his son, Vegeta.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's kind of interesting is I think we're gonna start. I feel like they can't just go back to, Bakugo doesn't really make change anything from us. I feel like some sort of change is going to happen within his character. It's just kind of the extent to which we get it, and I kind of admire that we're getting really a real fight between these two in the sense that they're both kind of laying themselves right out there on the line. The whole Shonen Jump, we're gonna fight each other with our fists so we'll see our souls or whatever. It's a silly trope that's kind of fun in and of itself, but it is something that they're actually doing right here, and that within this battle they're both kind of laying themselves out on the line about what they really feel about one another. And it's just sort of interesting to see this because regardless of what happens, they both now know this about one another. They both now know how one another kind of feels about them. So it'll be interesting to see how Bakugo, I think, more than anybody, kind of responds to this, because now he's seeing what Deku honestly thinks of him. He's not seeing Deku as just the kid who he keeps beating up and keeps getting back up, and he can't understand why he bothers or anything like that. He has to kind of also address that Deku is somebody who admires him and has thought he was such an amazing person despite all of his flaws and everything like that. I think it makes for a really compelling relationship that's being progressed even further into a really unique and fun direction. I don't think there's any kind of rivalry within Shonen Jump right now that's quite as dynamic as this one.
Yeah.
And this all comes to end the chapter as Deku, now that they've bared their souls to each other, launches in to attack Bakugo. We get a narration from him explaining that in the heat of the moment he is surpassing his limits, but it's not really that he's surpassing his limits, it's that he's kind of taking the restraints off just a little bit. Instead of limiting himself to using only 5% power in his full cowl, he goes up to 8%. So a little bit more than 50% faster and stronger, and that difference allows him to attack Bakugo faster than he can. And he launches this big kick at Bakugo in the chapter.
Yeah, did you guys get the sense that it was kind of ominously laid out? That narration that was like, I lost control, I lost sense of how strong I was. I was kind of getting the sense that I'm worried that something bad happens to Bakugo from this attack.
You might get kind of fucked up. You might get a little fucked up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he gets injured too. I mean, maybe it's something like he breaks one of Bakugo's hands or something like that. He can't use his quirk out of that for a while or something, like some kind of injury to, in addition to everything else Bakugo's going to have to accept from all this, he's also going to have to be brought down to earth by having, some of his quirks potency taken out of it if he can't fight or something like that. So this might be a humbling moment for him. But yeah, I definitely humble. But I definitely did get the same foreboding feeling as he starts to explain how he's losing control kind of unintentionally in this.
Yeah, I mean, I really do hope something about Bakugo's character changes from this. I'm a little bit worried and skeptical because that was exactly how I felt, after the kidnapping stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That there was no way he would come back from that and like be basically the same. And that's kind of how I look back on it now. Like I don't really remember him going through much of a change once he got back.
Well, he's undergone small changes, but in retrospect of the story itself, I think within the narrative, it hasn't honestly been that long between when he got rescued and when this event is happening. I guess the biggest change from that is that since All Might was taken out, he's now placing guilt upon himself, and this is kind of the fallout of that. So
yeah, it's true. It's been under the surface, and now it's actually coming to a head.
One of the big things about Bakugo is that he's constantly defied the sort of expectations that you would associate with his character. Mm-hmm. The way that he fights, the first really big hint that we got from it was when he fought Uraraka in the tournament, and he actually showed great respect to the way that she used her abilities in that fight. He didn't look down on her. He took the fight seriously, and he didn't go complete apeshit berserk on any of his opponents in that tournament. The only real part where his emotions got out were when he didn't feel satisfied from beating Todoroki. And then there was the way that he carried himself when he was actually captured by the villain's society. So, you usually feel like, oh yeah, this is the at this point, and Bakugo has generally defied that rule. So I think that whatever happens from this. Let's move on then, I guess, to our next series. If I my first certificate.
It's a fairy tale, isn't it?
We're gonna do Fairy Tale.
All right. Fairy Tale Chapter 514, Dragon Seed. Now, Jeff, this isn't a Shonen Jump title, so you can feel free to just poop all over this. Just go hog wild.
Use a different app. What is this Crunchyroll app?
What is this?
Orange.
Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I've never heard of this. So yes, if you recall last time in Fairy Tale, we had the cliffhanger that suggested that Irene, who was now revealed to be, well, quote unquote revealed to be Urza's mother, was also referred to as the Mother of Dragons. And this chapter is essentially a flashback to explain this. And it also kind of fits in with the narrative we've known for a while now, but haven't had much confirmation on, and exactly how the war between the dragons and the humans and the birth of dragon slayers actually was. So this is 400 years ago in the kingdom of Dragonhof? I can't tell if it's German or gibberish, so I don't exactly know how to pronounce that. But they're talking about how in the western continent, people are being eaten by the dragons there. And that's where we meet Belsarion the Wise, who I guess is the nice dragon. I don't know if we've actually ever heard anyone mention him before. I think he's
a shiny dragon. He's not a past.
Oh, he's a shiny dragon, so there's only like a 1 in 1,069 chance of finding him? Unless you're SOS chain hunting, of course. Nick, are you keeping up to date with all the new Pokemon shiny hunting gimmicks?
No.
Jeff, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I got a shiny Caterpie. That's about all I know.
Boosh. Fist bump through the internet. So he knows what we're talking about.
Woo. Yeah, totally. I've been trying to play Pokemon Sun in Japanese, so I basically understand nothing of what's going on.
Just like a lot of people want to fight me for some reason.
Well, it's really tough also because I'm like, are these names? Is it Hawaiian or Japanese? I don't know. Like,
it's kind of both. It's
some weird. Yeah. There's some weird names. Yeah.
Well, it's so confusing because you're the first like 2 or 3 islands. It's Hawaiian. Like it's clearly like the culture and everything. And then you just go to some new islands and it's like, yeah, this is like Japantown. You're like, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like some that are definitely like just straight up like, Asian culture. You have like the sliding fucking paper doors. I'm bad with names on things, unfortunately, but yeah, there's definitely like the Asian aesthetic creeps in at some point. We're just like, okay, I guess there's some other cultures in these islands, some very stark departures. But it's a fairy tale. We see Irene, who works with Belsarion, and these are the dragons that don't hate people. These are the ones that are nice to people, and humans and dragons work together in this kingdom. But they're currently...
You can tell that she leads a happy life. Evil makeup.
Yeah, she doesn't have her evil makeup. She seems to be in slightly more practical attire. I still don't know why you'd wear like clothes that just have giant like strap diamonds essentially all the way through. But you know, there's kids on swing sets, and she's holding flowers. Yeah, she's good times right now. But the dragons right now are coming to a war with those from the western continent, because those are the ones that just want to eat humans. And Belsarion and the other dragons of this continent vow to protect them. So we get another glimpse of Irene using her enchant magic to make a stick. She
looks a fuck a lot like her.
I mean, it makes sense. They're mother and daughter, but yeah. She uses her enchant magic to make a stone stick, or a wooden stick, stronger than a steel sword and break it, and she explains how her magic works, which then goes to kind of explain that the war wasn't going so well for people, unfortunately. The good side dragons were starting to get demolished. So Belsarion, injured, mentions that, you know, they're going to be defeated, and you know, even then he's not going to give up his desire to protect humans. You know, even though some of the dragons on their side, the ones who didn't want to coexist peacefully, switch sides, he will not fall down that route, and he will fight them for humans until the very end. And that's when Irene says, well, allow me to fight by your side then. I've got an idea for a new magic technique, and I hope that you can enchant me with your new dragon power. I need the power to fight evil dragons, to be a dragon slayer. And it's like, oh, so this is where dragon slayer magic officially came from. Irene was the one to create it. And she explains that she is the mother of dragon slayers.
If this results in Urza becoming a dragon slayer, done.
That's my concern right now, because it's not something that I feel like
I'm an armor dragon slayer.
Well, it'd be weird because it doesn't feel like something that's really been suggested or hinted at throughout the course of the series.
No.
I mean, I guess there was a little bit that Urza's past was mysterious, but not this closely entwined with like the major lore within the world. By the way, we then cut around to the other various dragon slayers, and of course, Lucy is naked and huddled up against Natsu.
She actually did.
We joked about how it was like thrown around like an offhand remark, like, Lucy, strip off all your clothes and nuzzle up against Natsu, and how she didn't, but apparently she did afterwards. And that's the scene, is Happy and her nuzzled up against Natsu, because I guess in a world full of mages...
The two loves of his life, I guess.
In the world full of magic, this is the best way they could figure out to create body warmth between people.
Oh yeah, you know that Happy, all 20 pounds of him, is going to produce all the body heat in the world that Natsu needs to survive.
At that point, why wouldn't Brandis just make Happy big again?
I don't know.
I feel like there's so many types of magic in this room that could solve this problem so easily.
Build a fire.
They're like, we can't. The one fire mage is unconscious right now.
Rub some sticks together.
We need a stick mage to do that, Nick. We don't have one here.
Just light the hay around him on fire. He's a fire dragon slayer. He'll be fine. It won't even bother him to be literally lit on fire. No, Lucy, take off your clothes.
So this...
It's so stupid.
This ends...
Somehow it's the stupidest thing in this chapter.
This ends the flashback, more or less. This ends Natsu's following of the flashback. Because even Gajeel and Wendy are just like, hey, we're just memories in your heart. Goodbye! And fade away. But Irene explains the end of the story, that trying to turn people into dragon slayers was a foolhardy procedure, because The power was too great. It ate away at many of the humans from the inside. They couldn't control their powers. It became raging monsters, or the dragon vision conflicted with their inner ears, causing incapacitating illness. And even worse, it turned some people into dragons, including her. And it was at that time that she was pregnant with Urza. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so does this the implication, I guess, is that Urza is literally half dragon?
That seems to be the implication.
Whatever. I guess we'll see where this goes. Something that has been pointed out in the chat room is that the invasion by the Spriggan 12 has been taking place over approximately like a day, maybe 2. And Lucy has stripped down like 4 times during the course.
Oh man, she's really have to pick up the pace if she wants to keep the arc average up.
She's going to have like spent more time naked than not by the time this conflict is over.
I don't know why she bothers putting clothes back on. At this point, I'd just be like, because everyone in the series is just like, dude, stop bothering. I've seen you naked so many times, it means nothing to me anymore.
And anyway, we have seen what you've been trying to do while clothed. It's not working.
Yeah.
Might as well get them out.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why don't you save yourself the time? You don't have to pay money for clothes anymore. That's some extra scratch you could save each month. And, now the fetish villains are going to have a harder time embarrassing you or whatever their gimmick is for that month.
You'll constantly embarrass the assassin guy.
I think one of the more interesting parts out of this is just Irene's explanation that dragon slaying magic ultimately turns the individuals into a dragon. It's the ultimate fate of a dragon slayer, as she explains it. Obviously,
so you gotta be like born special in order to do it. He's fine.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Natsu very well could end up having this be the thing. Maybe that's why he's having this sickness, but that would then seem to suggest the same fate should befall Gajio, Wendy, and Rogue and Sting.
Gajio's already died once, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, any thoughts from you?
So this was the first chapter of Fairy Tail I've read.
You're like, period.
Well, actually, it was surprising how much I was like, okay, this is a self-contained story about the origin of something that apparently matters if you've read the other 500 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, a lot of Fairy Tail is like that. Like individual chapters of Fairy Tail they're very self-contained, honestly, because stuff in Fairy Tail is very rarely drawn out. So chances are, if you open up a random chapter, there will be a beginning and end of something in it. I guess it's a weekly series. Honestly, that's something good to be said about it.
yeah, I was completely confused about why people were naked, but I guess
It's because Hero is a fucking and he knows that it makes his series pop.
Jeff, it's simple explanation. Natsu needed body warmth, so Lucy was demanded that she get naked so she could hold her naked body against his to share body heat. I don't know why it's so confusing. How is that not the first conclusion you came to?
I do want to make a note that, yes, the single most confusing that did not have some sort of explanation provided within the chapter, which is primarily based on an ancient race of dragons that were friendly with humans and the birth of this special type of magic and the disease that it eventually curses those who wield it with. And the birth of a main character who's just met her mysterious shrouded in shadows mother was, why is that girl naked? That was the only confusing part in this whole lore dump.
well, it's also like, why naked with a girl and a cat? But
that is
I guess you need both. You can't just have a girl. You can't just have a cat.
Gotta get that intelligent cat demographic in there too.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird tastes on the internet. Heroes just satisfying them all.
Not to mention the only cat that does not have a much sexier humanoid.
Yet we haven't seen. Maybe he
Yes.
turns into
Yeah.
he might turn into like a super Bishonen hot cat dude at some point.
He's gonna be like some sort of weird Shotokan character.
Wait, so who gets naked more often, Natsu or Lucy?
Oh, Lucy.
Definitely Lucy. Lucy
Okay.
is.
She probably gets naked once every 30 or so chapters.
Natsu,
Easily.
it's a rare occurrence. Like something is probably like something wacky or weird has happened to Natsu, but for Lucy, it's just it's the third quarter of the hour again. So time to come up with the excuse for that. This is a girl that was once tortured by having her stripped down naked and then having a goat lick her feet. Like
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That,
that is
Yeah,
that is a
relatable.
thing that happened.
They do that at Gitmo, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Okay, let's move on to food.
Food Wars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Food Wars. Yes. So we are in the midst of getting backstory exposition dropped. The same story being told from two different perspectives, one from Dojima and one from Joichiro himself. The chapter title is Wilderness Pioneer. In short, Dojima explains that Joichiro was clearly the superior chef of their generation, superior even to him. He noted last time how many times he was defeated by Joichiro in Shokugekis. But other than in that respect, he was kind of a terrible student. He would cut class. He would ignore everything that he was supposed to do while he was a member of the council. And he kept on experimenting with dishes. So not matching the school's curriculum very well, even though he was easily the most talented chef among them.
This is actually kind of an interesting thing that they bring out in this idea that he's second mostly just because he, great chef, better than Dojima, but, pretty nonchalant in every other one of his duties. Do you think this might almost be a hint to the idea that Rindo might actually be a superior chef than Tsukasa? Because she's much of the same way. She seems to shirk all of her duties, constantly leaving them on Tsukasa.
She was the only member of the council during the autumn festival that did not set up a booth. She just went around eating everything.
Yeah. I thought it might be kind of interesting if that's what they're kind of hinting to, which would be an interesting turnabout since
Yeah, what if she
was...
ends up like betraying the council somehow?
Yeah, she's
or what if someone gets smashed up? And,
Yeah, I mean, she's the flightiest member of the Council of 10 right now, so it's a unique kind of role for her to have, as she ends up being the strongest.
she's that unreliable monster wrestler that shows up in Survivor Series that would be the winner if you could actually get them to dedicate themselves to the team, but they just get frustrated halfway through and walk back up the ramp because they're sick of everything.
Jeff, it's 8:35, so it's time for our 8:35 wrestling reference, in case you're unfamiliar with how this podcast works.
I'm surprised it took that
Rindo-
long.
Yeah.
Rindo is the Braun Strowman of show.
I barely get that one either.
She's the Rusev 2014 of... There's one in every Survivor Series. Well, there wasn't one last year because last year's actual Survivor Series match. Anyway, so we get a pretty long flashback to Joichiro's time at the academy. It's so weird. Honestly, it's so weird seeing teenage versions of these established characters. Like, Joichiro looks just like, a scrawnier, cleaner cut version. But it's so weird to see Dojima with that freaking looks like platinum blonde hair and little scrawny emo Azami hanging around with them.
Like, if you gave people Food Wars and you made them read it chronologically in universe, do you know how many fangirls would be absolutely heartbroken that their sickly, frail, pretty boy Azami grows up into being this just despicable criminal mastermind?
I think the weirdest part about it is seeing him going around not wearing black gloves everywhere.
Yeah, like people would be like, "Wait, this adorable there's got to be a term for this kind of character. Like what's the male version of a moe character?"
I don't know.
Broe.
Broe? Okay. Yeah. They're all like, my Broe romance dude grew up to be an assassin.
And we most of what we get from this flashback is, people fawning over Joichiro, him being nonchalant about everything, Dojima getting frustrated with him, dragging him around to their council meetings because he doesn't really give a shit. There is one awkward moment where Azami's pure evil heart is played for laughs. Just, he's talking with Joichiro, and Joichiro is telling him about this recipe that he made, and Azami is just this carefully so that he can take that knowledge and incorporate it into his own cooking. There's this huge, hideous black aura spewing out of him, and Joichiro is like, "Oh, you've certainly got a really evil aura around you. Can you hold back on that a bit?" How can you,
just casually, like, hey, can you turn off your whole plans to dominate the school in a dictatorship reign of terror?
Yeah, just imagine showing up. Hey, Azami, can you hold off on your daughter in vaguely incestuous manner? just cut that out. It's gonna give me a bad vibe, dude.
Yeah.
Joichiro has a contest with Dojima in flashback with Azami as their judge, and we get this narration of the role that Joichiro plays to the rest of them, where he forges ahead fearlessly in darkness, and we walked where a path formed, and when he swung his knife, a new world of flavor appeared. This guy is Jesus, essentially. He is the one that everyone sets their sights on and idolizes during this time, despite the flaws that Dojima very explicitly lays out that he has. But Dojima says, let's see, he says specifically, being second didn't seem so bad, not if it meant I could walk shoulder to shoulder with him, and I truly believe that. I'm sure that Nakamura felt the same way. Day after day, we clashed, honing our skills against the talents of a peerless genius. Those were some of the best days of our lives.
Nick, I have an equatable memory.
Okay.
So in my 8th grade year of school, I was one of the techies in our school, which was basically just a term used that I knew how to connect the cables on a computer to the other parts of a computer to make them work.
That is a skill that is surprisingly rare.
Yeah, back in 2002, 2003, kind of early days in that.
Deity.
Yeah. So my entire 8th grade school year was essentially getting out of class to sit in the computer lab playing computer games and playing around in Photoshop, waiting for somebody to have an issue with their computer. And Nick,
oh my God.
It was the best years of my life. Very equatable to challenging your peers in a cooking contest or any kind of skill to improve your talents. I sat there playing old Shockwave.com video games until I had mastered all the demos that they offered and refused to pay for any of the actual games. So I absolutely know exactly what Dojima and Joichiro are talking about here.
Get me nostalgic for the actual blow-off classes that I had. I had one segment of because I was on a block schedule, and senior year, every 3rd day I got to just sleep for the last 4 of my 6 periods.
Good lord.
It's amazing.
Why don't they just let you go home at that point?
So we get a bit where Joichiro prepares a dish for these hoity-toity types, as is typical for Tatsuki students, and they bring up to him, it's like, "Oh, you have this wonderful ability. What kind of dish are you going to prepare this next time. And he's like, what do you mean next time? Oh, we look forward to, seeing what next dish we get to try from you. Your genius. We want to see what results from it. So Joichiro just kind of pauses before saying, oh yeah, well, no secrets. I'm going to come up with something. He heads off to start experimenting, and his classmates and stuff show up later. They're like, oh, the genius preparing a dish, and one of them tries something like, what is this? And he's created this weird fried gecko dish or something. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what
Yeah, they don't actually say what it is, do they?
They're like, oh, what are you thinking of trying that? What are you doing practicing with weird, gross, experimental stuff like this? And Jojo's like, ha ha ha, yeah. But Dojima and Azami are kind of staring suspiciously at Joichiro as the chapter ends. So it seems as though we're going to get some insight into why Joichiro chose the path that he did. Because clearly, if he had decided first, then he and Zami and Dojima could have led the culinary world into a new golden era or whatever. So, but his priorities were clearly different. And I guess we're just going to get additional emphasis on the philosophy of the series in terms of the good guys cook for.
I think what is kind of interesting to me is what we're going to get out of this with Azami's mindset, because we've kind of we know what his plan is, to make Central this unified thing where all the chefs make the same food. There's little room for innovation, but all they make is just pure cuisine. And we kind of see it from here, where Azami has looked up to Joichiro as not even like a mentor, but just someone he idolizes, someone who he sees as being the pinnacle of this stuff.
Senpai.
And we're seeing here that look he has when he sees him cooking, these disgusting gecko things. It kind of would make sense if his logic of everything should be uniform and, set in stone is because he sees that the talent Joichiro has is being wasted when he spends his time making these silly, goofy dishes via experimentation. If his logic's like
focus.
Yeah, he's like, you were the greatest chef in the culinary world. If you kept yourself to just your greatest works, you could have been the best chef ever. But you constantly went out and tried these off-kilter dishes, and that's what I cannot allow happen in the future. I can't allow another Joichiro to be knocked off the pack. Cooking must be uniform, and it must progress you forward. And it's a unique conflict for him to have, and I'm kind of interested to see if that is what the true case is.
And it's interesting because we see that Dojima and Azami within this flashback have pretty much the same mindset when it comes to Joichiro. Dojima is able to, take a bit of a harder stance with him and try and get him to. He's much more, hey, do your duties and stuff. But other than that, in terms of purely how they feel about his cooking and his abilities and getting to work with him and challenge themselves by going up against him, they seem to have pretty much the exact same feelings on him, but obviously, the time since then, Dojima seems to be much more open to the path that Joichiro took, and Azami was not. So, I think that's honestly probably going to be the big thing that we get from all this is why the two disagreed on that when things came to a head. Why Dojima? Because Dojima obviously did not go off do a bunch of experiments that Saiba did, but he is on good terms with both Tatsuki and with Joichiro still. Azami's gone off and is trying to take a much more sinister approach to getting everyone to just stop fucking around and do good cooking the way I tell you to.
Jeff, how'd you feel about the chapter? Would you eat those geckos?
I followed about 1% of this conversation. The two series that I don't follow and jump yet because I need to go back and read the entire backlog is World Trigger and Food Wars. So I was like, oh, there's no naked people in this chapter.
No one's clothes exploded off. this time.
Yeah, if you don't have that, it's kind of tough to tell what Food Wars is all about, because you're just reading it. You're like, this sounds like a lot of scientific food talk that I don't quite grasp. So wake me up when a girl eats like a hamburger and her clothes explode off because she imagines a stampede of bulls chasing after her, or whatever weirdness we get this week.
Yep. But I'm excited now that I've finally finished One Piece to go through. And well, I mean, I was excited to do World Trigger first, but now that it's on hiatus, I don't know. Maybe Food Wars is more pressing.
Might be a bit of a lower priority.
Hopefully it comes back soon.
Don't let him convince you that. You start working on World Trigger. By the time you get done with it, it's going to be back in the magazine. Nashihara Sensei is going to be at perfect health. He's going to be pumping out maybe 5 or 6 chapters a week. Who knows? He's going to be that perfect. And I like
that. Reminds me when Hunter x Hunter came back for a couple chapters.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to finish watching the anime and I'm going to catch up on the manga in between. And I got like 3 episodes into the anime before.
The funny thing about that was that it was such a
yeah,
Hunter's coming back. No, he's gone. And then like the second or third time it came back, it was for like weeks.
Yeah.
It's sad.
But hey, I bet you buck the trend with World Trigger. You're gonna finish it up, and you're gonna be like, oh man, that's so great. Oh, and they came back. Boom. Hey, it's time for a new rank war battle. Super sweet. Let's see how Osamu does this time, because he's now my favorite character.
All right, we're gonna do jump starts, meaning our one jump start left, because Demon's Plan is running in the English magazine, so we're just gonna do Ole Golazo. Last time, Banba met Ichino, who is the fantasista of the series. All these random soccer terms with very little explanation being given in the series. And the chapter title is Do Fantasistas Dream of Golazo? Freaking Blade Runner reference in this soccer manga.
Wasn't it? It was Stealth Symphony, where all of the titles were like puns off of American movies for some reason.
I'm pretty sure there was. I'm pretty sure that there was a Blade Runner or Android's Dream of Electric Sheep reference too. Just because it's such a weird title. But Ichino has shown up, and Banba is looking for a soccer ball. He's offering to help Banba to practice because essentially they are direct opposites of each other. Banba's got ultimate kicking power. Ichino is good at everything else. There's a lot of perversion going on in this chapter. Ichino keeps on bothering the manager, Hanamori, wanting to look up her skirt, wanting to see what her cup size is, and I don't know. They're reading shonen manga for as long as I have. There's an art to the pervert character. Like you can't just have them be like, if there's no charm to them, they're just gross. And like, look, I mean, the pervert character in a series is always going to be a bit of a base breaker. There are always going to be people who are just like, God, Roshi's such a dirty old man. They should just freaking call the police on this guy. There are always going to be people who are like, oh, Roshi, he's such a dirty old man. Oh, you scamp. Like Mineta in My Hero Academia is the one for the new generation.
Oh, yeah.
He is such a creepazoid, but I freaking love him. But this guy is just coming out and is like, oh, yeah, I want to see your tits. It's like, do it in a charming way, you freak.
It's like
Wear a tuxedo like Sanji.
Yeah, well, this dude has the odd attire of like a school shirt that he just unbuttons by the navel and nothing underneath, with like the world's tiniest little tie on that's just like dangling there.
It's like he's so obsessed with hot women that he tries to dress like one.
That would look pretty good on a hot chick. Yeah, you got it right, Nick.
And so we get this the line of the chapter, which is Ichino quickly deviates from asking to check out Hanamori's rack, and Banba getting pissed off at him to go, "Oh, talk of boobs aside, let's talk soccer."
So Nick, does that make it into our speeches of the year?
That is a line that I think that so yeah, Ichino demonstrates his super awesome passing abilities by how rapidly he can pass the ball. And he suggests that he and Bamba take on the captain of together in a 3-on-3 match. So Bamba's like, yeah, all right, I'll take this on and let's do this. I'll show you how great I stupid passes. And they come to an understanding in a very weird way. Hanamori's role in this chapter is to repeatedly to everything, which gets old, honestly, by the end of things. She just acts shocked at everything in this chapter.
Yeah, I enjoyed it in this chapter. I hope it doesn't. If it continues after this chapter, I'll be like, yeah, this is the same.
It's gonna.
But
The thing that frustrates me about Hanamori is that she's been around for all 3 chapters, but she doesn't feel like a character yet. Because I've read enough sports manga to have gotten to know some manager characters. There's Mori in Aisho 21. The name of the manager actually escapes me in Kuroko because I'm not an incredibly big fan of it, but I could tell you about what that manager is like. Same for Slam Dunk. But Hanamori, literally all that we've seen her do so far, try and recruit some people and then just react in a way that's played for comedic effect to various things happening around her.
Nick. She also has underwear with the soccer player's name on it. So there's that too.
What great character development. We get some insight into Ichino's character. He's kind of the opposite of Banba in terms of he is so ridiculously talented at soccer, but he got bored of everything. Nothing challenged him anymore, so he stopped trying. He's considered now a has-been, a former genius, someone who had all this great potential, but then lost it because he hasn't been trying for a while. As opposed, of course, to Banba, who tries hard at fucking everything. But he decided to give soccer another go after he saw Banba's Golazo, the wonderful goal that he scored side again, and so he thinks that this is going to be his guy. He will essentially. It's like speaking of Kuroko, it's like the dynamic between Kagami. I think that's his name. God, it's been so long since I've read Kuroko, honestly, where he wants to be Shadow. Actually, things progress, and Bamba's getting the timing down better with the passes, but they hit a pretty big hurdle, which is that Bamba's control is shit, so he keeps it just. And it just goes on like that for, I guess, hours, and Ichino is eventually just on it. Despairs, like, I've wasted all my time with this guy. And eventually, Bamba's like, well, stop giving me all those hard to kick passes. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? My passing's been perfect. Anyone could receive these. And he's like, no, they're down on the ground. It's really hard to kick them. What are you talking about? When I was in Taekwondo, I would never kick that low to the ground. I would always kick over way up in the sky, and I'll kick it perfectly. And they do get the timing down. We don't see Bamba strike it home, but this really cool page spread of him and doing the bicycle kick, doing the Pele kick in midair. And then we cut to the next day with the 3 of them issuing the challenge, by which I mean the 2 of them and Hanamori reluctantly issuing the challenge to the captain and 2 other defenders. And the captain at first is just like, this is stupid, we're going to practice. But Banba and Ichiro lay down the challenge, which if we can score a goal in the time before practice is set to begin, you'll let us be ready for the next match. And meanwhile, Hanamori's like, why am I actually here as a player? It's like, that's a good question. Why didn't they challenge them 2-on-2?
Oh, was she actually like? She's supposed to be part of the.
She's part of their
Yeah,
three-man
yeah.
team.
I was gonna say, like,
This
there's
girl
no.
who, as far as we know, does not play soccer at all.
Maybe that's his point, though. He's trying to emphasize that his passes are so good, even an idiot who doesn't play soccer will be able to receive them, and that the other dude's kicks are just so amazing that it doesn't matter that their third person can't play at all. He'll just fucking Golazo it from the other side of the field.
Uh,
Well, that's Ole Golazo, Nick.
I will say that this chapter, honestly, I'm excited about it. I mean, the first chapter was intriguing. The second one, I was not so happy with. But this one, I honestly felt like, okay, I get what the series is going for, and I do want to see more. It always seems to be that way with these jump starts. The third chapter is always the one that kind of is like, oh.
You're like, there you go, and goodbye. How did you like it, Jeff?
I mean, I can't remember how I felt the second chapter. The first chapter, I was definitely like, I really don't see what there is to this. Like, I was like, oh, it feels like a kind of like pale imitation of other sports manga, which I haven't read too much of. But
Every sports manga, every soccer manga ever, basically.
yeah, I mean, like really the only ones I'm familiar with. I've watched Haikyuu and I've watched the beginning of Kuroko, and it's dynamic. Like now it's clear in this chapter what the dynamic is between the two of them. I'm like, this feels really derivative of both of the primary pairings of both those series.
Gotta have that two-man dynamic within the team, no matter what.
Yeah, but this two-man dynamic doesn't really. I didn't feel like it had that much charm. It's like okay, but I mean, I did think this was the strongest chapter of the three. Like I really like the I don't know how you like the kind of like pop comic art style that's used throughout, and like the thicker lines, and I thought that was pretty neat. And it does seem like it really got to the thesis of this series, which is the crazy overhead kicks, which will probably be the center of the series going forward, I assume. I also just I wasn't really sold on the idea of like if it's actually based around the Golazo thing. Like it seems like the tension is always going to be teamwork versus going for it on your own. It's like okay, it's a
little weird, yeah.
And it's like it's already the center of so many sports manga, sports anime narratives. It's like, I mean, it seems weird.
They're gonna change the game.
You're gonna change the game, but also you need to learn to work with a team. It's like okay, so this is sports manga, the manga. I mean,
compromise.
I do think what might have helped a little bit with this is if, and I'm going to mix up everybody's names because I'm just bad at this, Ichino and Bamba, you mentioned how they kind of feel very, very similar to this sort of like pairing in other sports series, but I think where those ones were a little bit more interested in this one is that those ones generally start antagonistic in some ways, like particularly with like Haikyuu, you know, it's very quickly off to the like a jump that those two dislike each other just because their personalities don't mix or something like that. Whereas this, it's sort of weird when the characters seem pretty agreeable with one another. So it just almost, it doesn't feel like bad or wrong or anything like that. It just doesn't have that same kind of spark that makes the relationship between them as interesting.
It definitely seems like they're more trying to shoot for that sort of tension with the captain.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and that has potential. I'm curious to see how that would unfold.
It does, and it's certainly not the first series that has done that. That was honestly a big thing in the early of Slam Dunk, although Sakuragi and
Slam Dunker. I assume the other character's name is Slam Dunker.
It's two characters in there, Sakuragi and Slam Dunker. They make up the Slam Dunk.
Rikuo, I think, something like that. Their rivalry was on the team was the basis of it, and they were on the same level. There was I am the captain and you are my student thing, and I think that can kind of get in the way of that tension. Honestly, I don't know. I think honestly, what I want more from the series is exploring the things that make Bamba more unique as a character, because the first chapter I think really best exemplified what he was about, which was just, Rukawa, that was his name. Rukawa was the girl's name. What am I fucking talking? Where is that guy? Where is that character?
Nick, stop making up characters from Slam Dunk.
I will find this motherfucking dude.
The chat is too busy talking about Hawaiian pizza.
I don't know.
I do love that the chat has completely abandoned you on this and is just in a long discussion about Hawaiian pizza.
It is Rukawa. Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, Rukawa, there it is. All right. So,
you could have lied to us and said anyone's name, but like, oh, found it. It's Joe Montana. Got it finally, and I'd be like, great, Nick, you got him.
But the thing is that I feel like you got a good feel for this chapter where he was like banned from Taekwondo, and he was just like, oh, I'll make the most of this. I'll go hang out at the arcade. I'll be a really good student. I won't have this stuff distracting me. That was something that I felt that was really charming about him, and since then he's just felt very shonen sports manga protagonist, where he's just like, I want to do this stuff, and you're doing things wrong. You're doing things wrong the way that I see them, so we're gonna do this, and we're gonna take on the challenge because I'll take on anything. I need more from you. We'll see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, I wish Ole Golazo the best, and if nothing else, I hope that this mangaka, whose name I'm blanking on at the current moment, so I'm jumping back to the first page. Oh, I shouldn't have bothered. I can't pronounce that. Takamasa Mui?
It's Broe, remember, Chris?
Yeah, I hope that Broe Sensei continues to work a job, because he's definitely got a very unique and talented art style.
Yeah, I think a lot of the sports manga recently have not really made it past the 12 chapter mark, right?
No.
So
It's tough to do because there's only so much of an audience for it, and it almost seems to just be, you need to be great, I think, to really last very long, unfortunately.
And I think that like every sports manga story has really sort of been told, so it's hard to capture audience when you've seen the same thing, and everyone. Like I said, when we first got Ole Golazo beginning, I've seen every gimmick that there possibly can be with soccer. There, like, oh yeah, well he plays barefoot, but it's such a so transparently a gimmick to try and get a little bit more attention on it. I don't know, but I think that it's either Haikyuu or Hinomaru Zumo that was the last manga that actually got picked up long term.
Oh, and I guess the dancing one is technically a sports manga.
Yeah. It depends on how you perceive that. Yeah. I mean, eventually we'll get like the second, like iShow 21 or something. Anyhow, let's move on to the Promised Neverland, Chapter 19. Doomed. You gotta love the opening cover page there of all the kids when they were tiny going out playing together. I love how Ray is there. He's just like, want to sit down and read.
Oh, I don't want to. It feels like
in one image, all best character in the series.
I feel like you could take that shot and you could just put an arrow to Ray and it represents me, and Dawn is just represented by the responsibility of me having to go to work the next morning. Like this is responsibility dragging me. I'm like, no, I want to play Pokemon Sun. I haven't beaten all the kahunas.
I was shocked and dismayed when I learned that there were not gym leader Sun and Moon. I was like, how can you do that?
It's basically gym leaders.
know.
It's actually a more interesting take on gym leaders, to be frank.
But how can you not have 8 gym leaders?
I'll give you a slight spoiler, Nick. They're kind of in the game trying to work on it, so.
Ooh.
So Emma goes off to find Dawn and Gilda, who of course have had their heart conversation about, I can't believe that they don't trust us. I feel so weak and everything. Emma apologizes openly to the two of them for not believing in them. And Norman also offers an apology, and everyone feels kind of awkward because of the conversation they all just had. And Dawn's like, Yeah, I'm sorry I punched you. So yeah, everyone has a big apology fest and event, except for Ray, who's just like, "Oh God, fine, yes, we can still be
Whatever.
friends." Um,
He has lots of great faces.
and but even then, he does. Even eventually, even he says, "Yeah, I'm sorry for this stuff." Right? He doesn't explicitly say, "Yeah, Don, I'm sorry. I tried to frame." So that we'd have an excuse to leave you.
These things happen.
Yeah. But Emma drives home. Yeah, so now that you guys know that if we mess up in all this, we're going to be eaten and be dead, are you sure that you want to try and run away with Don and Gilda? Of course, say yes, of course, because otherwise we'll be left here to be eaten eventually anyway. Come on.
Yeah, they made it seem like it was this big moment of trust, and it's like, yeah, they have no other like.
They don't really have
Not
a
that much
choice.
better.
Let's see. Operate on the maybe 1% chance that we'll end up getting taken into the organization and help to kill all these other children that we care about, or try and escape.
Now, it's kind of interesting because I don't think it's brought up within this chapter, but I'm kind of curious to see how Don and Gilda, assuming they're still around when this, has to become a thing, are they going to be for or against also hiding the truth from the rest of the kids? Considering that's just the conflict they had, do you think they would feel differently about lying to the kids or saying, hey, hiding any of the details about this fact from even the younger kids? Like, can they see the logic now in hiding it for the sake of getting everybody out, or would they be of the mind of, hey, you have to tell them because they, if they find out another way, they're going to feel betrayed?
I think that they're going to agree that there will be an appropriate time for it, but considering that the kids are so trusting of mom, that it's way too big of a risk to tell everyone about this secret at this point.
Yeah, and I think it might be a way to like tell the reader that it's okay that they're lying to everyone if they pass off on that. Like if they're the ones who are upset about it and they're like, no, but it makes sense to lie to them, then that'll at least say like, no, there's a reason to do it. It's you won't second guess it.
So Norman relates what they're currently working on, that they want to scout this stuff out. And so now Don and Gilder are in on things, and so he kind of just starts divvying up duties amongst them. And time passes. We go to, I think it's like, they're down to something like 4 days until they're planning to escape. I can't remember exactly.
They're escaping on election day, which is I can't remember what date that is.
The election day varies depending.
Oh, it was election day this year. It was the.
Okay. So it is 4 days. Then 7 days. Sorry.
7. Yeah, I think it's on November 8th, and
If
they're
it's the 8th,
yeah.
If it's the 8th, then they're down to 7 days. 7 days. Emma and Norman are off by themselves doing laundry. All them white shirts, white. Everything's white. I wonder if that is in order to keep better track of the kids because white stands out.
Maybe it's also as a way to test to see how cleanly the kids are, because there's one who's always showing up like fucking Pigpen. They're like, all right, we need to get this kid's hygiene under control.
Yeah. So Norman, of course, is trying to think about stuff because, of course, he still has to figure out a way to trick Ray, who, of course, had told him, okay, we'll ditch everyone except for Don. Now everyone is in on their plan. So he's like, okay, but how the hell am I going to still get all of those kids together? Emma interrupts his thoughts by bringing up that she has a way to escape with it. And she relates
Which is
the plan
not mentioned in this chapter, right? Like
it's a secret. It's a secret.
Yeah.
She looks very confident and determined, though, that this is the one way. It's a reckless plan, but they can catch Mom off guard. It's realistically the only way to escape with everything. And Norman, thinking to himself privately, We might even be able to trick Ray with this. But he goes off on his own afterwards, still thinking to himself, because he just is thinking to himself, "Hey, how long have you known about this secret?" And just remembering the stuff that Ray has told him. So Norin just comes to a conclusion, which he doesn't think out loud. He just thinks that Ray is planning something which he's going to have to stop him from doing. Which I think that what he's probably thinking of is that he's planning on ditching Dawn and Gilda as well, because his priority in the beginning has been just Emma, Ray, and
Oh yeah, I guess so. I didn't think about the two of them. I thought it was about how he was going to sacrifice himself to get Norman and Emma out.
It's entirely possible.
But I guess that includes ditching Dawn and Gilda too.
Mm-hmm.
I just completely forgot about those two.
Yeah. I mean, he laid out from the beginning. He's just been trying to save the two. So
yeah.
If he doesn't prioritize Dawn and Gilda, then yeah, that's probably it. I don't know if Norman. I don't even know if it would occur to Norman that Ray would be thinking about sacrificing himself. That's certainly a possibility, especially from the information you get from the conversation he has with Mom at this point. Because we get a little bit more planning between the four of them minus Ray, where they're talking about, okay, how are we going to actually scope out the vicinity when they've got the tracking devices? And Emma just says, okay, we're just going to cause a distraction, prevent them from actually keeping an eye on this that way. And Ray is actually working on his part of that right now by, feeding information to Mom. And so, of course, they're just like, from there we just, have to distract Crone with something, and then we'll go and scope things out. And so we get to sit in on the conversation with Ray and Mom. Ray says that Norman is planning to kill her because he's so desperate, and he's planning on concocting all sorts of stuff. Oh, he's got a hammer, he's got and the herbicide. So Mom's thinking, wonder if he's planning on trying to kill me by poison. But Ray warns her, and he says, don't ship them out early to get to this. I want them to live to 12 years old in this house without any inconveniences. So I think that we should just, replace the chemicals with something that's not going to handle things more subtle. So he completes his report, and Mom then says, oh, by the way, I got a notification the next shipment is set. There's not going to be one next month. And so Ray says, oh, well, that means the next shipment is going to be in January, which is meaning the next shipment is going to be me. He seems very calm about this information, though.
I mean, it seems like a weird thing, because it's like, presumably, everything's going to come to a head in the next 7 days, so do we as readers even care what happens in January? Like,
yeah,
either he's going to be left behind forever.
I get the feeling that he knows that this escape plan might fail. Possibly because of him.
Yeah, but like, even if it fails and he's left behind, like, he's going to get shipped out at some point. So, like, the fact that it's soon doesn't really...
And this could very well feed into your theory that just sacrificing himself. It's possible that he has just come to terms with this, with his fate, because he's had 6 years to think about it.
I'm wondering if maybe instead this logic that, like, oh, I'm the next shipment in January, maybe playing on the two theories. What if he's noting that because he's like, I'm planning to maybe make a deal. He's like, I can give you Dawn and Gilda instead, because it sounds like both of them are getting smarter, and maybe he's going to try to use them as patsies in his place. It just feels weird for Ray to completely give up, considering, and I understand we were still kind of under the impression he was a more noble character than he actually was, but the extent he was going to in that one scene with Mom where he grabbed a knife so readily and was preparing like the idea to just stab her right then and there, I find it hard to believe that he would just be so casually giving up on life. Now, we don't know maybe to the extent that his feelings for Norman and at least Emma go, but I feel like this character's he has too much pride in himself and things of that nature to be someone who's just also willing to just give up because he feels he can't get ahead of the situation.
Interesting to think about, though.
Like he's always seemed to thus far be using his relationship with Mom as something beneficial for him to get ahead, getting things from her so he could learn about the outside world, things of that nature. I can't imagine him accepting his fate.
So I feel like even that little reveal of I'm next could have been a potentially chapter-ending thing, but it's not. The other four go off in order to find a place to scout out, and Norman is thinking to himself as they go. Things are going. We've got all the necessary pieces. We're going to succeed. I won't let anyone die. And they're walking down a path through the woods, and Crone appears from behind a tree in probably the single creepiest panel that we've gotten in the entire series. Just as shows, she looks so creepy.
The implication to me is amusing because it's like, one, either you kids had to have seen her because she's not hiding. A part of her's behind the tree, but she's not hiding. But the other part's like, what if she just moved out of it? And I find it amusing if she was one of those people who thought she could just slimly hide behind this tree, even though her shoulders are poking out.
Like an old school cartoon where you hide behind a pole that's 1/3 your width.
Yeah, she just slings out like, whoop. Everyone's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird looking at it now. Like I'm on my iPad with in landscape mode, so it shows.
We get it. You designed the app, okay? We gave you your props at the start of the episode.
Yeah, I decided that on an iPad you should display the pages next to each other.
The best quality. There's no black bar when you scroll between them. Just the high quality work constantly delivered to us at the Viz social media app. Boom. Boom, boom.
But I read this initially on my phone with only seeing one page at a time, and it actually worked better there because you're on the right side and then you flip the page in the app or whatever.
It just comes out of nowhere, yeah.
Right, but when you actually see both pages side by side, you have to read a whole page while you see her looming there, so it's not really a surprise. It's kind of weird.
It almost feels like the chapter layout should have had it on.
Yeah, I wonder if when it's in the volume, if it'll be laid out like that.
Yeah, I wonder if it was last minute needing to change up the pages or something and had to switch things around.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, everyone is shocked to see Crone. And but they keep their cool. Norman says, "You need something," and Crone's like, "I saw your conversation in the dining hall." Just lays all the cards out immediately.
She's such a child about it too. It's just I saw you.
I saw you. You've been keeping a secret from me. I know what you were doing behind. So Dawn starts to freak out because he realizes that the goose is up. And Crone reveals, yeah, I know that all 5 of you were in on this. I know all 5 of you secret that you're the target. I caught you. And things get really tense. Norman is the only one who is remotely keeping his cool in the whole situation. Dawn looks like he's about ready to start screaming. Gilda and Emma grab each other. And then
I like how they imagine. It looks like they're imagining all the cover pages we've seen of them all dead with flowers and stuff. Yeah.
And but then all of a sudden, Crone just goes, "Do you mind joining forces?" And it ends on this blank panel,
what?
except for the word bubble that says "what."
So, which do you find creepier, Crone's normal super creepy face, or her smiling in a way that's supposed to look?
Smiling, offering an alliance face is honestly even weirder on her. I'm not sure if it's creepier, but it's so weird to see her acting all friendly like that without the sinister shadows to take away from it.
I definitely feel like it's her giving the alliance because it's like a clown's face but without the makeup. I almost just imagined a clown face on top of it, and it's just that unnerving. Why are you smiling?
It's got a very expressive face. I gotta give her that.
Interesting development. I'll be curious to see how this.
Yeah. I'm curious if it's really a development or if it's just a, just a complete lie. and just trying to use them so that, well, I don't know, use them to set them up or to advance. I mean, I guess it's possible she's trying to take down Mom so much that she ends up befriending them and being a useful ally.
Well, it could be very easy for her to have them cause some chaos, and then she be the one to bring it back under control, to either discredit or even kill Mom, and then be the one to take over. So maybe that's what she's playing. We've seen so far that she seems to operate on a lower level than Mom does. So for her to come up with, it seems like that it would be in character for her to come up with such a simple, in comparison, plan. But we'll see how things go.
I'm also curious.
Interesting.
There's another plan that was meant. Oh, who was it? Was it Norman when he was speculating? They were talking about how like the plan what they're doing with Ray telling about the poison stuff is to keep Mom distracted while they're going to scope out the wall. And
obviously, they didn't distract Crone.
No, but Norman said he was like, I have a way to distract Crone. I have something in my mind, but like we don't know what that is. And
you see in his mind, it's like a laser pointer that he's like having her chase. He's like, that foolish old woman will be so distracted we'll be able to escape without her even noticing.
Crone holds up the laser pointer that she confiscated from Phil or whoever. It's like, you thought that you this? Well, now I can make the laser pointer myself.
she leads herself right into like a garbage truck or something. You're just like, all right, well that problem handled itself.
I wonder what line she was talking about. Oh well. Oh god.
What do you? This series in general. What do you think about like? Do you think that escaping the orphanage is the entire series, or do you think that's the one arc and entire longer saga?
They have no idea what the world outside is like. I mean, I'm sure that it'll take them probably a while. I could see them spending like the first entire calendar year trying to escape it, but we actually have a bit more of an explanation of what the Neverland is, because the implication we've gotten is that this is not the Neverland. It's where they could escape to, because the term Neverland is the place that the kids went to, not where they started off. So
what's What's interesting too is I can't see this place as the end game, because I feel like to have a full resolution for the series, they'd have to in some way deal with the fact that this is the reality of the world, that there are children being raised in farms to be eaten by demons or monsters of some kind. And this isn't like Attack on Titan or like Seraph of the End, where the characters have powers to actually help them combat these forces.
Yeah, so like what can they do in the...
It's like Death Note in the sense that it's like they're going to use their mind for things, but the force they're fighting here isn't another, if it was just Mom, then yeah, I'd say like that would be the conclusion, but I feel like they're going to have to go beyond that, and some other element's going to have to be in the series, even if it's just like they unite with, I don't know, some army force that exists out in the world that's like trying to survive and keep humanity alive, or something like that. I feel like there's going to have to be some element that allows them to actually combat against the demon army or something like that.
I mean, now that I think about it, this is a book I have not read in a long, long time, but the Tripod series was a lot of like dealing with like the alien cities and stuff, and it's possible it goes a route like that, where they are dealing with infiltrating cities which have been run by these demons and stuff, without having to actually fight them. But who knows? I mean, I guess it's a good structure for a manga like this, because if at any point it gets canceled, they can kind of like wrap it up and be like, okay, here's how they escaped, and here's how they didn't escape. Yeah, but
have a segmented story in mind, and so
But I'm just so curious, like how much they planned when starting the series. Like, did they have what's outside the orphanage planned out or not?
Yeah.
So I'm really curious where it goes.
Let's move on to Black Clover, page 90. Students, the very comic book action pose to start off the chapter with Asta and Fanzel lunging forward with their swords.
I have to say, I like this guy a lot more now that I know he has red hair.
That did it for you, huh?
Yep. I mean, I didn't really have much else to go on, so
Like there's just
I read the
something
novel, but at least his hair is red.
like that's all I really needed to get invested in this character.
Yep.
But we start things off with a flashback with Fanzel teaching Mars and the other one. His name's going to come up during the chapter. Ladros, there it is. Just remembering some of the lessons, I guess, that he taught them. But the lesson that he imparts in this opening page is, your power exists to protect others. Don't ever forget that. And of course, nope. That's not exactly the direction the Diamond Kingdom's in. Fanzel tries to remember the strengths and weaknesses of his students as he's fighting with them. So he's like, okay, I've got to keep Mars at close range. Ladros is great at physical reinforcement spells, so I've got to really, really hammer him when I'm actually attacking him. Can't hold back. And he's thinking to himself as he is attacking Ladros, laying into the guy. He's like, it's kind of odd. He didn't actually have a magic attribute, and he had this inferiority complex about it. But even though he had very powerful magic, and as Ladros is getting hammered by all these attacks, he starts wailing out and crying mercy from Fanzel. And then he just turns on the dime, makes a face like a freaking drama theater mask face.
Oh, I love this thing. Like I can't. It's too much, teacher. I can't eat all your magic. Like that, with that face of just like, all right, I'm invested in you now.
Ladros really impressed me in this chapter, honestly, because he demonstrates that he has an absorption ability, the ability to absorb and emit magic that are laid out by others. So he just absorbed all the magic attacks that Fanzel lays into him with, and then he can fire them out as however he wants to. And so the way he puts this is, in other words, I can use your magic to kill your friends. What a douche. Love him.
It seems a little bit too overpowered at this point. There has to be like, I'm curious to see how that's not just the most powerful thing in this universe.
I mean, there's
and
also
that's one of Asta's swords. So there you go. Wouldn't you know? So he mocks Fanzel a little bit. It's like, you didn't have to bring anybody special to this forest with you, did you? If you did, you better probably go and protect them. And Fanzel immediately reverses his direction, flies off away, as he just unleashes a blast of magic in every direction. He essentially does planet extinction, like from Dragon Ball, just shoots out lasers everywhere that start wrecking the entire forest, and really, really knocks the witch's side for a loop. And Fanzel is down by it as well. And Domina, of course, is heavily wounded. Ladros observes the damage and sees Domina and picks her up and is like, I was just kidding about you having someone special. Oh, I guess I lucked out. Oh, hey, it's your girlfriend. He's such an asshole. Fanzel tries to say, like, you should be using your power to do right, and Ladros says, we have been, the whole time. I just, I didn't go through special training to just protect people, And he, of course, mocks Fanzel on the path that he has chosen. He says, getting to use my power like combat is the best, and I get to be acknowledged by this country, and I want to be acknowledged by the world. That's the reason I trained hard and why I became one of the 8 shining generals. So, and you're just a coward who lost a power struggle and then ran away. Domina responds to this by blasting him at point-blank range in the face, which of course doesn't work because magic absorption. So he throws her up in the air and just gets ready to execute her. Shoots a huge wave of energy up at her in the sky. But the blast is deflected by Mars. who steps in. He's got a giant mineral sword laid out, and which he blocked the blast with. He's holding them, protectively, and he says, "My power exists to protect others. My teacher's lesson got through to me." This was surprising.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything in Mars's first appearance hinting at this character direction in the slightest.
Popularity. Character popularity. That's
People like him, so give him a reason to not get killed in his first appearance. It was very strange, and I've been sitting, laying this chapter stew for the last couple of days, thinking, why is your character taking this direction about that whole backstory with Fauna? She's literally right there on the other side of the forest. What happened to that?
He's like, nope, don't know her.
Like, what we've got. So the thing is, the weird thing is, like, it is like tradition, and for Chris to be the mediator. I don't hate this chapter. I'm just really surprised by this direction that Mars's character took, because it really does seem like it came out of nowhere.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. And Annalise is still on vacation, so she can't correct us.
You can't
and can't be angry at us either. Now, when Mars fought against them back in the dungeon, he did encounter and discuss a bit with Asta, correct?
Yes, the end encounter.
So from that logic, Asta talked to him, and he's not dead. He's helped him through his problems. And thus, Mars is on the correct path. Nick, I'm not a betting man so much. I don't have a lot of money to start throwing around wonton bets, but I feel so confident I will bet $1 to you, Nick, that in the next chapter, Mars explains that he is doing part of this because of his interaction with Asta from the dungeon.
I heard my teacher's inner monologue about inspired him. And if you mean that much to him, then from the encounter we had before, follow his path.
Yes. It's Asta by 2 levels. It's Black Clover is essentially going to be called 6 degrees of Asta. It's going to be how you were inspired by Asta in 6 degrees.
Get inspired by Asta or die.
Because initially, you know what? Even though I don't understand the whole thing with Mars, I was at least thankful because it's like, oh, cool. Like, it's somebody else coming in to save the day that isn't Asta. Like, it's just refreshing to see. But now I'm sitting there, I'm like, if he was motivated by Asta, though, doesn't it feel like Asta is still indirectly saving the day then? We shall see.
The next chapter, if we get a bit more insight into Mark doing this, it could very well justify this twist, and I could end up coming away from this with much more positive feelings. But it was very confusing to get this happening at the end of the chapter, when I felt that up to that point it was actually a very strong chapter. Seeing this new technique and seeing a guy just being horrifically, sadistically evil. Yeah, I guess we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I guess the thing that really disappointed me about the turn is, like, I feel like we don't know enough about the Diamond Kingdom, and maybe that's my own fault because it's been a while since, like, Mars's first appearance.
They have not really established very much about it. They've got 8 shining generals with the Kingdom. That's about all we know.
Right. So, like, the fact that, I mean, it's also the problem with the teacher guy in general, and, like, not having read the novels and stuff, is that we don't understand, like, what there is about Clover, or about the Diamond Kingdom that, like, yeah, so betraying them in this way, is that a big deal? Is that a small deal? Yeah, we don't really, maybe once we know more later, we'll look back on this and realize it was a good thing, but for now.
It is somewhat curious. It is somewhat curious to me that this was the decision that was went with by by Tabata Sensei. I'm almost kind of curious if, like, the editor was almost, like, just okay with it, like the idea of, like, hey, a large portion of this arc is going to be predicated on characters from the light novel we did. Like, I'm really curious to find out how successful and popular the light novel was in Japan. Like, does it have that close of, like, a a 1-for-1 ratio of the people who really enjoy the manga, because it does seem like a curious decision to say, hey, we're going to base a lot of this arc off of characters who haven't been in the series, or their relationships at least haven't been in the series thus far.
Yeah. Oh, another thing Black Clover reminded me of, I was earlier today just listening to the Q&A stream you did earlier this week, or last weekend or whatever, and you were talking about that question of, would you rather have, if you had to choose between character, story, what was the other one?
Character, story,
Story and art. Yeah.
Right, and I was like, Black Clover to me is great art, good characters, and like not much story, and which I think you proposed as being the ideal scenario of the, like, if you had to choose one that was lacking, and I'm like, oh, but it's the same, like, invasion after invasion, and
I mean, all the stuff the Black Bulls did this time was basically the same as when they were at the.
Yeah,
it's done anything different, really. Noelle got her water dragon to turn around. That was progress, I guess. Let's spend
15
2 minutes
seconds
talking about RWBY.
Yeah, RWBY, number 7, still no titles. So this chapter is about Yang, our yellow to the titular RWBY, who punches things. And from my vague like osmosis of the series, I believe she acts like an older sister figure to RWBY. I don't know if they're actually sisters or not.
I'm getting that is what is happening in this opening page, because I assume that, she is there at the bottom of the page fighting the demon things, and so she's protecting RWBY.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. So Yang punches things, as we will quickly find out. It's the second page is her just punching out some random like mafioso dude. It's sort of weird because she like punches him out and then it's like having a conversation with him. And it's just like, we're going to start talking. She starts explaining.
He's very put off by.
Yeah, but she starts like explaining the school she goes to and things. Like, I get a signal, but I'll be going to Beacon Academy next year. A schoolgirl shouldn't be at a nightclub. I think he should be like, yeah, leave. Stop punching me.
This is a nightclub. Why are you here punching me?
I guess that she wanted to get information from him, and he said that you needed to pass a test to do so, and I guess sicked some guards on her as we see a pile of beaten men behind her. She explains that she is Yang Zhao Long, continuing to add into this eclectic cornucopia of names in this series between Weiss and Zhang and all sorts of stuff. I'm assuming next week we get like a Bartholomew, and then after that maybe like a series of like Webdings. And there's 2 other characters who show up here. I don't know if I'm supposed to memorize their names, but considering like all the like significant characters I feel like thus far have been women, and these are like the first 2 female characters that aren't part of the main 4 to show up, I feel like I maybe should be paying attention to the 2 of them a little bit more. Melanie and
Miltiades.
Miltiades?
No, Miltiades.
Milkshades?
Milkshades.
Milkshades. They start fighting against Yang. She reveals that she has like heat fists. I guess the gauntlet she's wearing can heat up extraordinarily so. She makes a comment about like, oh, I guess it's also a shotgun? Yeah, she's a shotgun in there as well. This feels like overkill. She's a shotgun and like heat gauntlets. But she says like, don't get close to me or you'll get burned. And then she looks and sees a giant man with a sword above her. And he's like, that's more than enough from you, Blondie. Credits. Cuts out right there.
It's such a weird, incredibly short chapter.
It feels like Bleach is back though when I get this. When I'm like,
I
can get through a chapter in like 30 seconds. This is great.
Even in terms of the way that it uses contrasting colors and very little backgrounds.
How do you feel about Yang, gentlemen, of this intro chapter to her?
She has very large breasts. I noted that part of her character. Just like,
it's
wow,
so frustrating. Like, why? It's like it. I mean, the large breasts, okay, fine. But like, why is she wearing her whatever thing she's wearing over them? It just like half covers them. You know, like.
I'm very frustrated by the costume the girls wear in this series. bothering to look at the manga the last couple of chapters, but Blake's outfit also really bothers me. Like garter belts that go over shorts or something.
Yeah, it's a unique outfit. I think maybe this is obviously a manga based off of web animation. I don't know what you'd exactly call it. I guess animated series would just be the total term. So maybe these are things that look, and this is kind of, it was created by the same guy who did, Haloid and Dead Fantasy. So series that had a lot of very crazy high-paced action, which I believe is sort of one of the main draws to RWBY as well. So maybe this is, a kind of attire that looks a lot better when it's moving at that kind of a quick speed. But yeah, it is sort of a weird design choice at some moments when you catch it and you're just like, why even bother wearing the coat if it's like going to go right up to underneath your boobs and then stop?
Because it makes her boobs into a heart, and you need heart boobs.
Like you go through the trouble of finding one that for some reason the bust of it is large enough to just almost kind of wrap around them, but one that's not large enough below hand to actually zip up to that point.
Yeah.
I guess it's just something we're gonna have to get used to. Let's move on to One Piece, and which we're gonna finish off with Chobro in the Land of Mirror, which it seems like it should honestly just be a freaking movie, because that is a movie title right there. We start things off in the Vinsmoke's guest room, where they're just kind of talking about how things are going. They mentioned that Reiju is nowhere to be found. They have no idea where she is, but they don't really care. They're like, where's Reiju? She's out.
Whatever.
She's fine.
She's at the back of the chapter. Just...
yeah. Judge notes that they are going to have Sanji and Pudding live in Germa with them, because they want to keep Pudding under their control as their hostage. They want to basically have the control in the relationship between the two families. And Niji brings up, wouldn't they want a hostage too? And Niji just says, what the fuck would we care if they killed Sanji? So that's not going to work for them at all. Why would they bother? And very ominously, Yonji said, I can't wait because we get to live with Sanji again, which implies to me that they're just going to keep on abusing him, which makes me really want to see Sanji kick him in the face as hard as possible again.
He's like, I don't use that mask. I haven't used that mask in a while.
Just sitting here gathering dust, not being used to starve people.
We cut to the mirror world where Broe is still preparing to cook and eat carrots. It's so cartoonish. But we then learn from Chopper's perspective that Broe has sealed her own downfall. Because that is not Carrot, it's a frog that Broe has turned into Carrot with her from way back when they were in the woods, and Carrot's just throwing her voice from above to make it seem like the frog Carrot is actually the one making the sounds of dismay. So Chopper looks around and takes a quick look at.
And they just don't hear the frog noises, I guess.
Well, no, I get presumably they hear Carrot going, "Save me, rabbit."
They're like, oh, those crazy minks impersonating two different kinds of animals.
What weirdos! So Chopper takes a quick glance at everything that's going on. I love that he names. He's like, okay, there's Randolph, there's Broe, then there's Aristocroc.
Aristocroc.
The ill-fated sequel to the Aristocats, I guess. Carrot and Chopper go into their escape attempt. Carrot leaps down to the fake. Carrot uses a pendulum to kick the boiling cauldron over into everybody. Chopper shrinks down into his brain point in order to escape from the chains, and then Carrot gets to really shine because she uses her electric ability in combination with the cauldron, which is, of course, sprayed all over everyone to electrocute them all.
In classic Pikachu mentality, Nick, if you get something wet, the electricity hurts even more.
With the sprinkler systems. No, it's still ground type. And then Chopper drives the exclamation point in by going into his Monster Point form and just swinging the Aristocroc by his tail.
No, Aristocroc!
No. Yeah. The Diesel guy, the train-looking dude, tries to escape. Doesn't work out too well because Carrot immediately leaps onto him and steers him into a wall. And yeah, Chopper and Carrot escape, and they can use the mirror world to travel all now. Great turnabout. We then cut to Sanji's room, where he is trying to prepare a dish for Carrot. He's had ingredients brought in by a servant, and he's still got the flowers that he picked before. He's trying to get her mood up. But we cut away from that very quickly. And of course, he does not know what the hell Pudding is up to, because I can just imagine like he's going to prepare a steaming dish for her and come in with flowers and chocolate and this new wonderfully made dish, and comes in, just sees her swinging from the ceiling fan.
He's like, oh, this is a dark end to this chapter. You know what, Nick? You were right. She wasn't working against them.
We cut to inside of the treasury, where Brook still is facing off against a bunch of the guards. He's taking them out one by one, and he stands firmly against them, says that I've asked my partner to risk death itself for me. So that I could get here, I've got to leave with what I came for. Otherwise, I shall lose all face. What do you mean I already have no face? Skull joke.
I like that no one prompted it.
No one at all. Everyone's unconscious. Nobody heard that. And then very awkwardly, Big Mom spots Brook through a grate. I don't know exactly how this whole building is connected, but we, I guess, briefly see him on a balcony, and then Big Mom just spots him.
Well, she smashes through a wall. She like fucking Kool-Aid Man's her way in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She looks very intrigued by Brook, saying, "Oh, what creature is this?" And of course, we just learned a couple of chapters ago she collects odd creatures. So, it's like Brook might end up in the same place as Luffy and Nami.
Brook maybe fits that bill. I don't know.
But it's a living skeleton.
I don't know if it counts. Seems like there's a lot of them around.
It's interesting how her desire to collect people is like, I guess he didn't. No, Luffy had it with Brook too. But like when he met Chopper and he met Brook, he was like, "You're interesting. You're part of my crew now." You know what I mean? It's not too far off from that. I mean, obviously they're kept inside a book, so
good point.
A little different.
Good point. A lot of the prominent villains in One Piece do share or have like dark versions of some of Luffy's qualities. Like Blackbeard was very much a dark reflection of Luffy, kind of all the way through. And yeah, I guess, Luffy wanting to befriend people to add them to his crew, and Big Mom forcefully acquiring people is a good example of that. Got a scene with Baron Tamago.
What?
Pedro is struggling against a very large force, and Tamago then shows up at the scene.
Captain Pedro of the Noax Pirates. As an adversary, I have always respected your skill.
Baron Tamago!
And now, when we meet face to face, the scars over our left eyes twitch with rage. Now tell me, why would the man who clinged to life so fiercely 5 years ago return to repeat his mistake? Oh, after all, you barely have any life remaining to begin with.
That was my line too.
Moezabe Q. That was my bet. For that fateful day, Mama stole 50 lives from you. Doom.
50 years of my life. I didn't.
You know what I meant.
I do. That's right. I'm under no illusions here. I don't intend to return home alive. That's
And then the chapter ends. Nothing more significant happens.
nothing else important. That's a big thing to learn, though, that Tamago has had a really, really ill-fated run-in with Big Mom before 50 years taken off his life, which means that he is most likely actually not long for the world.
It's also
I really like the connection of the scars over their eyes.
Yeah.
It's gruesome and cool, and I have no idea what it's about. And I like the dual reveal that they do, where Tamago takes his sunglasses off and Pedro lifts his turban up to reveal his scar.
it's kind of
Actually, when I first read it, I couldn't find where he took the sunglasses off. I was like, wait, his eyes are just open there all of a sudden? But yeah, I guess he's holding them below the speech bubble.
Beneath the speech bubble.
It's kind of interesting. I didn't expect that Pedro would be this significant of a character going into this arc, but I'm really glad to see that there's more being developed for him here.
Mm-hmm. And on the very last page of the chapter, Pedro is. She is bleeding and staggering through the hall of some building. So what the hell happened to her?
It's tough to say, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time to sit here and really debate it out, but I did notice that it looks like the wounds are only really coming from her legs, so something's maybe in my mind saying that maybe part of that superhuman technology they're working on is kind of falling apart, or maybe she self-inflicted this kind of damage on herself. It doesn't seem like someone attacked her. I feel like if they did, it would be like in the torso area or something like that.
It is, it was something that definitely occurred to me right off the bat. Was we know how impervious these guys are, so the fact that she's wounded is kind of a big deal. What happened? Yeah, fun chapter all the way through, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, pretty fast moving.
So yeah, we are unfortunately a little bit short on time, so we're gonna just finish things up by naming our favorite characters of this week, favorite series and MVPs. Chris, why don't you go first, because I'm gonna bring up the spreadsheet.
Sure. I'm going to go with my chapter of the week is going to go to My Hero Academia. I really enjoyed what we got out of this chapter. It's been my favorite for a couple weeks now, I feel like, but I'm really digging where this is going. I feel like this is creating a really dynamic and interesting relationship within not just My Hero Academia, but within Shonen Jump itself, and it's been really fun to follow this along. I'm really impressed with what we've been getting out of Horikoshi Sensei. Jeff, how about yourself?
I thought I had an answer, and then
No pressure.
You know.
But if you pick the wrong one, then we're never going to air this episode. You're just banned from the podcast. You're like a fairy tale. Shit, no.
Fairy tale, the naked girl. I think it's a tough call between Promised Neverland and My Hero. I think I'm going to go with My Hero for chapter and character too, right? MVP.
Character MVPs, someone else. You could be from the same chapter or same series you pick for chapter of the week, but they don't have to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Bakugo for MVP. Yeah, interesting to see more of his personality, and also to hopefully we'll look back on this as a turning point in his character, or there's at least a hope for that. So that's most interesting, I think, in this week.
Very true.
I am in agreement with the chat room. My favorite chapter this week was one. Got a lot out of it. There's a fun action scene at the beginning with the awesome visual of Monster Chopper just throwing a crocodile onto a bunch of people. There were laughs in it. There was Brooke can be awesome, and intrigue at the end of it, and cool stuff all the way through. I felt.
My character MVP for this week is going to be Pedro. I didn't expect anything of him going into this arc, and seeing that they're teasing something unique out of him has definitely got me excited for the character.
And I went for Ladros from Black Clover because
another great one.
It's really, very effective villainy. So that's gonna do it. Thanks everyone for listening in on Recap. We record the show usually Wednesdays at around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to us live on hitbox.tv/RWBY and twitch.tv/RWBY. Be sure to also give us a follow so that you can stay. I'll be recording the show. You can follow the hosts at RWBY, at YRuler of Time, and the podcast itself at WMR Podcast. And also give Jeff a follow. You can find him at JeffNitleyJeff.
And don't forget to check out Poddigis.
Yeah, if you like Digimon. And if you don't like Digimon, then you probably shouldn't.
No, do it anyway.
If you don't like Digimon, that is basically all that they talk about. So.
Look, guys, the world ends with you, okay? So if you don't like Digimon, you just gotta try it, because life is about experiences. Plus, so many of our listeners enjoy the monthly Digimon commentaries we do, so I guarantee there are people out there right now that like Digimon that definitely deserve to go check out Poddigis, because it's very good for that sort of Digimon
I guarantee
scratch.
that they have greater insights than, man, Joe is such a loser, and Montaimon is hilarious.
I mean, both those are true, so...
They are true. You can check out our past episodes on Weekly Manga Recap.com, as well as on iTunes and on YouTube. And if you check them out on those places, give us a comment and rating so that you can help us beat the Wood Podcasts in the comment section. You can also send us criticism, ask us questions, and suggest future manga for us to read. Send all that stuff to Weekly Manga Recap at yahoo.com. We also want to give a special thanks to our Patreon supporters. Your support allows us to create all sorts of bonus content for you guys to enjoy. A special bonus podcast for December. We also just did, of course, our recent Q&A episode. We've got more stuff coming out very soon.
Can I just say I want everyone to add Patreon support, become patrons, so that you reach the milestone and can cover more series, because you should really cover Astrolox in Space. I caught up on it the other day, and it's really great. So I hope that you do that in the future.
That's one that's definitely been floated around, too, for people who have been talking about it. So it'd definitely be an option on there.
We also, of course, want to thank the guys who helped us make the podcast what it is. Infamous Planet.
Nick, there's no time for it. No time to thank Infamous Planet. All right, I know we made the.
And also Stevie Man, our talk artist, who did a great job on that Keijo article.
My favorite part is I know Infamous is in the chat right now, waiting
giving him shit.
Waiting for us to thank him for making the title.
There it is.
There's no time to thank him, all right? We just had to end the episode off on a witty anecdote. So, Jeff, you think in the future then, I made a very bumbling error when I first contacted you, in which case I referred to you as Dude Ball once. Do you feel like going forward, if I want to ask Sasaki-san to be on the podcast, do you think I should avoid calling him Dude Ball in the future? Do you think?
You just call him Broe.
Broe.
I mean, he's kind of, his character's kind of moe.
Oh, we've got our.
Yeah, we got all we needed. Let's just head home. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yeah.